Chapter 28, Mr. Kermit. The minutes blur into hours, which blur into days, which blur into weeks. The first thing the condemned man loses is a sense of time. All I know is that it's flying by too fast. For so long I couldn't wait to be finished with my teaching career. Now, barreling full speed and out of control toward the finish line, all I want to do is make it last. It's tough to tell the kids that I won't be back after Christmas, but they take it better than I expected. Maybe they already know. The rumor mill in a middle school can be like that. They're the ones who changed everything for me. The unteachables. Ha! That's what happens when you put a closed-minded bully like Thaddeus in charge. A school district where wonderful students are tossed aside like the trash. Parker, the kid who has a reading problem. Nothing more. The fact that no teacher ever bothered to find that out says more against the Greenwich schools than any cheating scandal. Barnstorm. Look at what they let him get away with because he happened to be a sports star. He never learned how to work before because he never had to. Elaine. I'm as guilty as anybody for taking so long to figure out that Elaine is smart. And she is. She's also good at hiding it. Her reputation doesn't help. But teachers are supposed to see around things like that. Mateo. The school jumped to conclusions about the kid's quirky personality. They wrote him off. He deserves better. Raheem was allowed to sleep and doodle through 6th and 7th grade before he was dumped in SES 8. Today he's an absolute star over at the community college. But what's more important is how well he's doing in 8th grade. Aldo might be the only one who belongs in SES 8, but he's come a long, long way. He passed that science test, and the fact that he did isn't half as amazing as the fact that he even bothered to try. Finally, Kiana. She never had any business being in the class. She just drifted in and stayed, and not a single faculty member, myself included, bothered to look into who she was and what she was doing there. True, it turned out in the end. Kiana is a huge part of what went right in room 117, but she could just as easily have fallen through the cracks and all her potential would have been wasted. What's going to happen to the kids on December 22nd when I have to leave? Kiana will be fine. She'll be back in California, and anyway, a bright girl like that will find a way to succeed wherever she ends up. But what about the others? Will the class get a real teacher? Or will the replacement be a babysitter? Or worse, a warden? It's easy to see the progress of the past weeks being rolled back. Christina will try to do right by the students, but in the end, Dr. Thaddeus calls the shots. He might even kibosh the trips to Terranova Motors, which mean so much to the kids. It hurts to admit it, but the transformation of SES 8 could never have happened without Jake. Part of it's the field trips, the time away from school. The kids like Aldo and Parker. For kids like Aldo and Parker, the things they learned about cars are among the first things they ever learned, period. Or at least learned without hating it. It might have started out as Jake trying to make up for his misdeeds of 27 years ago, but he's taken a real interest in those kids and they know it. When someone cares about you, it's natural to respond. Strange that the man who used to be 12-year-old Jake should star in my teaching rebirth. And his co-star, even stranger, Emma Fountain, daughter of my fiancé who married someone else. Emma may be a fish out of water in middle school, with her bucket filling and her good bunnies, but her energy and enthusiasm are boundless and pure. She awakened a love of teaching in me that was buried before she was even born. Lately, I've been covering Emma's class while she takes the SES group over to the dealership. I can't bring myself to go there anymore. I've made a kind of peace with Jake, even started to like him a little, but it doesn't change the fact that he's the reason Dr. Thaddeus developed his grudge way back when. Better to stay here in room 115, running circle time and playing nursemaid to Vladimir. Emma's students are okay. Mostly they are just too many of them. 43 minutes go by, a bell rings, and a new crew is sitting there looking exactly like the old crew. I can't tell them apart. Not like the unteachables. who are so distinctive and full of personality. Nobody is likely to mistake Aldo or Elaine for any other middle schooler. As the weeks fly past and December 22nd looms closer, I savor my time with the kids the way a gourmet lingers over a fine souffle. The class is spending so many afternoons at Terra Nova Motors these days that they're almost lost to me already. They leave on the minibus at 11 and barely make it back before the 3:30 bell. I read and reread Kiana's essays, lingering over her well-seasoned arguments. I relish the discussions with Elaine and Aldo as they work their way through Where the Red Fern Grows. I listen for the faint sound of Parker whistling through his teeth, a surefire sign that he's reading without having to struggle over every word. I cherish these things because I know I won't have them much longer. At this point, every puffy tail I award may well be my last. At home, the walls of the apartment are closing in on me. It never bothered me before, but it's driving me crazy now. This is the future, kicking around these 2.5 rooms and 1 bath. I was planning to cash it in at the end of this year anyway, but with early retirement, I would have been able to redecorate, maybe even move to a nicer place in a better part of town. For sure, I would have traveled. I might not have the money for that now. And anyway, I'm so down that I can't think of a single spot on this green earth that I'm interested in visiting. Of course, I could look for a new job. There are other schools in America, but Thaddeus has pretty much taken care of that. How do you explain to a prospective employer that you were fired for cause? Any Google search of the name Zachary Kermit will eventually spit out the words cheating scandal, and that'll be a deal breaker. Besides, at 55, I'm not exactly a spring chicken. Starting over from scratch isn't a very attractive option. Sunday morning, I shuffle into the kitchen to investigate the prospects for breakfast. A cheese stick and a semi-stale dinner roll. I've stopped food shopping again. I was doing okay for a while, but the bad news jolted me into old ways. Oh well, with coffee it should at least go down and stay there. Breakfast is interrupted by a series of clicks. It's the doorbell, or what would be the doorbell if the doorbell worked. Must be a mistake. Nobody ever comes to visit, and I haven't ordered anything. I pad barefoot to the door and peer through the peephole into the smiling face of Emma Fountain. What does she want at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning? She says, "Don't pretend you're not home, Mr. Kermit. I can hear you walking around in here." Open the door. What brings you here so early? "I've come to give you a ride to the science fair," she replies, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. "I'm not going to the science fair," I tell her. "I'm not feeling very warm and fuzzy toward that school these days." "But you can't miss it," she pleads. "What about the kids?" "What kids? My kids? They won't be there. Nobody entered." She looks evasive. "That might not be exactly true." The coffee is getting cold. "Of course it's true. I'm their teacher. Do you think I would have noticed if one of them was working on a science project? They did it as a group." I repeat, "Not possible." She drops the bombshell. "They've been working on it at the dealership." It strikes a chord. The frequent extended trips to Terra Nova Motors. Emma accompanying the kids so I won't see what's going on. They've been doing this behind my back. It all fits. Except for one gigantic question. "But why?" "They did it for you," she announces. "For me? Why in a million years would they think I'd want to?" Then I remember that random district policy, 10 points added to the science scores of all winners. That would be enough to... They're trying to save my job. She beams. "Isn't it wonderful?" "No," I explode. "It means the kids blame themselves for what happened. How could they even know about the connection to their test results?" She studies the threadbare carpet. "You had no right to tell them that," I rave. "It's a gross violation of my privacy. Worse, it made them feel pressured to enter a science fair they have no chance of winning." "Don't be mad at them." "I'm not mad at them," I exclaim. "I'm mad at you. They could never do this on their own. You set this up. You and that Terra Nova dimwit. Jake loves you." "Yeah, Well, I tremble to see what would happen if he